Are you ready?
For a podcast hosted by George T.
Who the hell are you?
I am the movie geek.
Who are you?
I am the movie geek.
You are such a geek.
Thank you.
And now, on with the show.
It's time!
It's showtime.
It's showtime.
Here we go.
Hello and welcome back to the Movie Geek Podcast. Yes, I am actually back now. It has taken me a little bit of time to get reorganized and so on, and we are going to start putting up videos. I have figured all this out. It has taken me some time, but I will. So, welcome in. I want to go ahead and just say that it has been quite a unique year, and with everything going on and me going back to work, and so I haven't been around much, and it really sucks to have to work 60 something hours a week and trying to get as much done with family and friends and also bring you content. I mean, it has been absolutely nuts. Haven't seen as many movies as I've wanted to this year. Obviously, circumstances with that as well. But I am going to be back, and you will get a lot of good content. I want to first say to the new members or the new downloaders or the new listeners, welcome. I got an email the other day that said we had reached a milestone, and I was kind of curious because I have not been around and done my 2 shows a week or even a weekly one for that matter. So I was pleasantly surprised to see that we have grown a little bit, and with maybe the YouTube side, or maybe just even my socials for that matter, which is only one, Instagram, or just people in general have been able to find this podcast, and I want to thank all of you for that. And that is why I want to get on here and do a very quick one here. There's been so much going on. I will briefly go through it. Obviously working, my family also comes first, and got to see a few concerts. One was part of Silver Screams Con, which is a horror con, just like I did Terracon last year for the Rhode Island Comic Con. Ice Nine Kills, if you've ever heard of this band, I would suggest listening to it. They do a lot of movie, I want to say metalcore songs about it. I don't know the exact thing. Ashley had turned me on to it, so but they are really, really good. And so I got to see them, and then Ashley and I just came back from Wage War. That is a metalcore band. There was a few other bands that she loved as well there. So, been doing that. Speaking of Comic-Con, the last one of the year for me is Rhode Island Comic-Con. And unfortunately, bad news, didn't get the press credentials for this. They have a rule about at least having 1 year of podcast or whatever brand that you're trying to get media credentials for. Okay, I get it. I'm a brand new podcast. Boston had a little bit different, criteria. Thankfully, I got to do some B-roll for that, and I still haven't put that together yet. Really not that much there. Didn't do a lot of interviewing either, so I may wait until next year and do a better one. Also trying to collaborate with a radio host in the area. He does a podcast as well, and he has been going to cons as well. So I'm hoping maybe that Rhode Island this year I'll be able to at least collaborate with him. I will keep you posted on that. So Rhode Island Comic Con is coming up in November. It is a crazy con this year. There's so much going on at this con this year. And of course I lost my paper. So, but I'll get to it. There are so many guests. There are so many reunions going on. Oh, here it is, right here. So, with that being said, usually I usually go for 2 days, a Saturday and Sunday. Friday nights are really not the biggest thing, although I got an email from Rhode Island Comic Con that Helen Hunt, who's going to be at Rhode Island only for Saturday, is coming in early, and there is a special watch party of the original Twisters at the Providence Place Mall with Helen Hunt. I will be checking into that. I really briefly just read through the email. I didn't really go through it, but that is something that would be very, very interesting to do, besides meeting Helen Hunt as well on Saturday. But there is a meet and greet, I guess. I'll read through it. I will get back to you guys on that one. But a lot of reunions, I want to say reunions of sorts going on. There are a ton of American Pie actors in this one. I did not see Shannon Elizabeth on the list, or Jason Biggs, but the rest of the characters, Tara Reid's going to be there, Chris Klein, so there's a list of the others as well. So that seems very interesting. Back to the Future cast will be back. George and I met them up in Boston a few years back. I got to actually meet Leah Thompson. Michael J. Fox wasn't there as much. Obviously, clearly, he was more for the photo shoots and so on. So we got a great picture with the entire cast. Christopher Lloyd was a little expensive, so at the time I was like, maybe this year we might. So that'd be interesting. There's a Police Academy reunion. Yes, Steve Guttenberg and C.W. Bailey, Michael Winslow, just to name a few. But there's going to be a bunch of the Police Academy people that are going to be there. I actually know that Bobcat Goldthwait isn't going to be there, but I actually did see Bobcat Goldthwait do a stand-up show. My friend John, who's a comedian, was an opener for him in one of his trips down here to the East Providence Comedy Connection. So I actually got to see him alive, and he didn't really talk much about the Police Academy days, but he is actually pretty funny. But I'm looking forward to maybe meeting Michael Winslow. I think he was very, very talented back then, and would be great to catch up and talk to him. Going back to American Pie, Shannon Elizabeth I know wasn't on the list. Maybe she might be on the list, but I met Shannon at Rhode Island years ago. This was around the time where she was a celebrity poker player at the time, and we get to talk about poker because that's one of my loves, is poker, besides movies and sports and so on. But Shannon was an amazing person to talk to, and then I met her again at, I don't remember exactly which con it was, or an event, I don't remember, but it was years ago. Just a great person. Also, Scream. So over the years, Scream has 6 films. They have a 7th film coming out next year. I will get into all that later, and in another podcast. But so Ashley was excited to actually get to meet Matthew Lillard. My son and I think I've talked about this. George met Matthew and Skeet a few years back when Scream came. Those two came from Scream for the 25th anniversary of Scream. And so this year, David Arquette will be there. Skeet and Matthew will also be there. Laurie Metcalf, Hayden Panettiere. Heather Graham was supposed to be there. She is not going to be there. And then, just a bunch of the characters that were in the movie over the years. So that'll be an interesting thing. We also have a brief Mandalorian reunion. Katie Sokoloff is going to be there along with Gino Esposito. And so I know I'm looking forward to meeting both of them, and I think that'll be wild. Twilight, there's a bunch of people from Twilight. Don't get me started on this genre of that. There's also Reno 911. There's also a brief 90210. Saved by the Bell. The list goes on and on. There's just so many different things. So I'm looking forward to it. I always look forward to Rhode Island Comic Con. I've been going to Rhode Island, I believe, since 2016, and the only 2 years we really missed was the pandemic years. And actually, a brief story about the first time. So George and I were going to go to the 2015 edition of the Rhode Island Comic Con. Now, it was a really small con at the time, and so they only had one building. Well, that was the year that we thought we were just going to get tickets and be able to go in. Wrong. The fire marshals were called in for both Saturday and Sundays. They were turning people away from getting tickets. They were turning away people who had tickets because it was overdrawn. And so Rhode Island went back, and in 2016 they gravitated to not only the convention center, but now the Dunkin' Donuts Center, but now it's called the AMP. Also, they moved forums into the hotel. So like when you would go to a con and you had panels, or Rhode Island also does a film festival as well. So they moved all of that from the convention center to the Omni Hotel. So it has grown from leaps and bounds. I remembered Boston was the big Comic-Con for a long time. Rhode Island Comic-Con now has become much bigger than anything probably they ever anticipated. And Boston is still a main draw for some actors, but it's gotten more away from the actors. It's more about artists and voice actors, and so it's not as big. Rhode Island, there is a ton. If you go to the Rhode Island Con website, you'll see there is a laundry list of people there, and it's going to be fun. John Cleese is one I'm going to want to meet. Mighty Python series is absolutely one of my all-time favorites. So I'm looking forward to meeting John Cleese. Ghostbusters, I didn't mention earlier, but Ernie Hudson is going to be there. Not sure if anybody else is going to be there. I know Mackenzie Grace from Ghostbusters Afterlife and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire will be there, so that will be fun to meet her. Logan Kim also will also be there, so the new generation of that. So who knows who else is going to be there, because they've got one final week to situate everyone. In years past, they've invited the Walking Dead casts. I got to meet so many of them. Everybody keeps calling for the Stranger Things cast. We have not seen those guys in probably 2 to 3 years. They were, when they were kids, they were able to go to con, I believe it was after season 1, and then they gradually were supposed to be there, and then they got pulled for some reason. Walking Dead characters were also pulled a lot of times, so it was hard to narrow that down. But again, I'm looking forward to Rhode Island Comic Con. I'm looking forward to bringing you more content. Speaking of content, I've got a list of things that I'm going to do. Obviously, this is spooky season. So what better way to do spooky season than do horror lists? So I will have horror lists after horror lists after horror lists. So I don't know how many episodes I'm going to do on this subject, but I will have a poll at the end of this. So if you are on YouTube, you can comment on there. I'm not sure about Spotify yet. I'm still trying to figure that out. I look at Ash's Spotify so I can see myself, up there on the thing. But the whole thing of this podcast, obviously, is to bring you content about movies and TV shows. Speaking of that, TV shows. I have been watching a lot of TV shows, a lot of series. Just started second season of Daryl Dixon show. This is now the Book of Carol. So again, I will not do a review of that until afterwards. I just finished Ark Season 2. If you did not hear an episode where I talked about this, this is a show that is on Sci-Fi, and the last few episodes have definitely shown the sci-fi budget for some of these shows, like The Expanse. Expanse was a really good series, but then they moved to another network, or I believe they moved to Netflix so that they could continue their thing. Ark Season 2 finished on a high note as far as where the story could take. I'll do a TV series wrap up on certain shows. Snowpiercer season 4 is done. I have not finished it yet, but I will do it. So I probably will do a Snowpiercer and Ark episode coming up, because both of them talk about end of the world type things, and the last living humans that have won Snowpiercer are still alive, riding around on trains while the Earth is frozen over. The Ark is they're trying to find a new home because Earth has been destroyed. So, great show there. I am finishing up Terminator Zero. I'm going to do an entire episode on the Terminator franchise and where it goes, because there has been some exciting news, and I will share that right now. James Cameron is talking about doing another Terminator movie. Now, he did obviously 1 and 2. 2 is, I believe, on my last, or a couple of episodes before that, where I talked about great sequels. That was in my top 5. Terminator 2 is such an amazing movie. And so if he is to go back and do a Terminator 3 and kind of erase what has happened, that would be awesome. But I'll get into that, because really, I don't think we really need another Avatar movie. I'm just saying. But don't get me wrong, Avatar, the original one, was amazing. Avatar 2 wasn't that good. Cameron, go back to Terminator, please. But this show has been actually interesting. Another show that I've been watching is Agatha All Along, a really good Marvel show. As you can see, and as you know from a couple of my episodes, Marvel is like my thing. If it's going to be a comic book movie genre, it's going to be Marvel. I've talked about DC. Speaking of DC, real quick, how about the Joker? That's about all I can say about that. Because it may have won the weekend, but it drew less money than Morbius and one other superhero movie. And that's terrible. I'm sorry, DC, but you just can't figure it out. And James Gunn, I give you all the credit in the world for going from Marvel to DC. But I said this before, and I will say it over and over and over again. DC movies just are terrible. And that's all I gotta say about that. But granted, Marvel movies outside of the MCU haven't been as great either. Speaking of that, is Venom: The Last Dance is coming out this month. The trailer, the first trailer that they dropped, absolutely was terrible. So my expectations for this movie are way down, and obviously George's expectations of this movie is not very good either. I'm hoping that they will let Venom into the MCU, and maybe the MCU can find a home for him, maybe as the lethal protector, as a good Venom, maybe a bad Venom, who knows, because there is rumors. I will get to that on another podcast coming up soon. Also, I want to talk about video games that are becoming movies. I'm going to do an entire show on that whole thing. Good, bad, and ugly video game adaptation movies. I will say this. Borderlands came out, I think it was the end of August or early September. It was a 0 on the Rotten Tomato, and it lasted not very long in the theaters. An ensemble cast, but a not so good execution of a movie, and it got me thinking of a lot of video games that have become movies. Speaking of one that I am going to be actually looking forward to coming up in 2025 is Until Dawn. And that is why when I go to Rhode Island Comic Con, I will be talking to Hayden Panettiere. I think that's what her name is. I'm really bad with names. As you know from my many episodes, I butcher the last names. It's horrible. Or first names, for that matter. But I am going to ask her about why she was not asked to reprise her role as her character in this game. I will talk about the game. I will talk about that trailer. Well, not a trailer, but they had just finished on production. So I'm looking forward to that. You know what I would be looking forward to? And if anybody who's listening out there knows somebody that it would be looking for a script for a movie, I may have written one for the best video game of all time, or what I feel is the all-time. Dead Space. Yep, Dead Space. I know that there was talks years ago about doing Dead Space, and I believe it was John Carpenter who wanted to do it, but the studios did not want Dead Space to be a movie, which to me doesn't make sense to me at all, because we had the rise of The Walking Dead from the comic books that were written, And there was a lot of zombie shows and stuff out there. Now, granted, Dead Space is not zombies, they're necromorphs, so but they're in that kind of genre because, you know, they're undead and, you know, it's a great video game. I have a script. So if there's anybody out there, comment below, link my podcast, or, you know, get hold of somebody. I would love to get that script out there because I think Dead Space would be an excellent movie idea. I do not know why anybody has not thought of this other than John Carpenter, but why they turned John Carpenter down is amazing to me because he is such a great director. I mean, how many horror films has he done? A lot. So that is that. And then, like I said, there's going to be a lot more content coming up in the near future because I will be getting to see more films and reviews of things. Also, we've got almost to the end of the year, so we could start talking about the Oscars and all the shows that will be coming out in the beginning of the year. Just like how I started this podcast talking about the Oscars and all the award shows that are coming up. Also the Razzies. So there will be content about that as well as to my rankings of what movies have been good and bad and ugly Razzie Awards. So with that being said, this was a really quick one to get back on the horse, so to speak, and get you guys, you know, wondering what happened to me or whatever, even if you weren't wondering. I'm also going to try and get some guests on. I will try to bring back Jennifer Nagel. She just finished up season 7 of her Queen Malvia thing on YouTube. I have her stuff linked to my page. If you have not seen her stuff, go and do so. She was able to raise enough money to do season 7. She raised a ton of money, and so if you guys, one of you guys or any of you guys were out there who linked to her stuff and helped me out with that, helped her out with that, thank you. And again, I want to try to get her back on here and actually record or not have technical difficulties so that we can, you know, share, you know, the talk. So I want to leave you with a poll. So I was looking through Warner Brothers and Fandango put out a top 16 movie, you know, ranking thing, or like a Final Four type thing, or Sweet 16. So the movies here, and this is kind of, you know, just their talking. So it was It and Blade in one category, and then it was Final Destination and The Shining, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Poltergeist, The Exorcist, and Creepshow. On the other side of the bracket, it was Beetlejuice and Trick or Treat. The next one was Lost Boys and Wicker Man, Annabelle and The Conjuring, kind of a weird one because they're the same genre, and Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. So there is a Sweet 16 out there, and I will, on the next one, give you the way I would go with this. I would love to know what you guys think. So for this first round, It, Blade, which one would you guys prefer? Final Destination, Shining, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Poltergeist, The Exorcist, Creep Show, Beetlejuice Trick or Treat, Lost Boys, Wicker Man, Annabelle, Conjuring, and Nightmare on Elm Street, and Friday the 13th. I know what I would pick. I would love to hear what you guys pick, and next week you'll hear how I would have done it, and then I will share the results from the Warner Brothers website. I kind of found it interesting, but also I will have an update as to box office. I know I haven't done a box office review lately, but I will in the next one. So again, I am so thankful to be doing this, and I want to thank all the new people who have tuned in, downloaded, on YouTube. I'm extremely grateful. For the paranormal people, I will be putting out more content. I will be putting out something on my socials. Instagram, it's Geoted3, and then my YouTube channel is GT3 underscore underscore nerdy underscore dad, and I will be posting something on there because the way I feel about the content and how some of it has come out, and how the world of paranormal has kind of gone. So I will be doing that. But I want to thank you guys all, and I will see you guys at the
You like that, baby? Let him know where I came from, yeah!
See you next time. Bye.
Waiting for you. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Hasta la vista, baby.
That's all, folks.